Hello and welcome to the Preferred Contractors podcast, where we give you actionable steps to grow your contracting business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrison, and today we're going to talk everything branding for your company with a wonderful guest, Brittany Churchill, COO of Kyber Digital and brand specialist. Brittany, welcome. Glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So branding is definitely not my go-to, and the conversations we've had have been so amazing, and just what I've learned in just a few months, and the few conversations we have. And it's such hard to tackle and understand what it is, but then understand the importance of it. So I'm super excited to get into this stuff today. So first, let's just get started about you. Tell us more about your journey with your company, because I know you have your own company as well as Kyber Digital, and how you kind of became a branding expert.
Yeah. Let's see. I studied marketing in school. I was also a ballerina. So interesting combination, right? What I think that helped me and why that guided me to branding is because I was about the performance, the feeling, the emotion you got from a brand, which is much more about the brand than the actual marketing. So you might interact with a company because of its marketing, but you get to know a company because of its branding. And I think my experience in the artist world really led me into that branding space a little bit more than the marketing space. I started my company in 2018. I started by building websites to help fitness instructors, yogis, nutritionists, things like that. Yeah, different from this contractor group. So I helped them build small brands. And what's out there for branding is it's tough and it's expensive and it takes a lot of time. So tried to boil it down, make it a lot easier. And it seemed like a really easy transition with Kyber and with you guys, Jay. It's been so much fun to move that package into the contractor space. So it's been a good transition. And then COO as Kyber Digital was something I never expected to want to do, but I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. The team at Kyber they're so special, and I can't leave them. I just came on as a branding specialist. I wanted to be here about 10 hours a week, and now you guys can't get rid of me. So
yes, and I'm thankful. I will say that I am thankful and I am grateful because, that's definitely the mold that keeps it together. Shh, don't tell Jay.
I love systems. My second passion in life besides branding is systems, and which so it's really fun to work on systems with Jay and the team. It's great. And what a cool group of people, seriously.
Oh yeah. And it's a lot of fun. Like whenever we meet, I'm excited. I'm sitting at my computer going, let's do the Zoom. Let's get into it.
It's crazy.
It's fun. So let's get into branding. So some people just don't understand. They get a mix of ideas. So what exactly is branding?
So I kind of touched on it, right? But branding is that connection you have with a company. It's why you want to continue to do business with them. Whether that's Apple for its aesthetic or with Nike for its excitement, right? There's an emotion or a relationship there that's designed by their branding. I like to think about it as if you were to create a personality for your company, what would it be? Could you describe them as the guy that sits at Starbucks and works on his computer all day? Or is it the athlete running up and down the stairs in that zone? So there's like this energetic feel to branding. So it's not just a logo and a color palette, although those things do play a role in branding. It's really how you want people to feel about your company. Maybe you want them to evoke trust or a sense of calm. There's all sorts of things. And that really lends to making marketing easier. What I think about with branding is that you're designing a company that allows marketing to be simple, right? It's that you don't have to explain your whole story. They get it in an instant. And then the marketing seems more authentic, more natural.
Yeah. And you talk about feelings and people forget that, most companies or businesses are starting to solve a problem, right? And that's kind of their main focus is, well, I solve a problem, but they forget that it's and Jay and I have talked about this a lot. It's not just as much as solving the problem and taking care of that, as how do they feel when you do it, right? Like you can be the best person in the world at that job, but if you make the customer feel like a jerk or, feel stupid, in the whole process are uncomfortable at any time, like that plays a big role.
Yeah, it does.
And
Yeah.
I think people miss that. They're like, well, I'm the best roofer. Oh, okay, well, that's great, but you're also a turd. you know, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that makes a difference. So when it comes to building a brand, okay, what are kind of the key parts that business owners, contractors are missing when they're starting to build their brand?
I think, especially for small companies, and I'll speak to this as if a contractor were building a brand, right? I think that's applicable here. If it's a small business, it's a medium-sized business, you want to look at what are the traits of you or the company as a whole that you want people to get right off the bat. So is it trustworthiness, right? If you're someone who's a plumber who's coming into a home, they want to feel trust, or reliability, right? Or maybe they want to feel like you're going to handle it well and in a timely manner. So you want to pick the things in your brand that are most important, maybe the top three, and then figure out how to use everything that you have, your website, your business card, your logo, your van, the color palette you choose to evoke those things. For me, I think that there's a sense of fun in that too, and that you get to be creative. It doesn't have to be who you are as a person. I'm a little bit like nerdy. I like I said, I love systems. And are also artistic, but my brand doesn't have to be, right? My brand could be more something that's loud and punchy. So you get to be, you can step into that other side of you if you'd like, but it's really about how you want people to understand your company. And so those three main points are a really great place to start, so that you don't feel lost, right? A lot of times branding's like, oh, well, do you like this color palette or do you like this logo? It can feel like you have so many decisions to make. But let's say you want to evoke trust. What are trustworthy colors? Greens, blues, groundedness, like anything in the brown, taupe, tan zone. Problem solved. You can exclude red, pink, yellow, and orange. Yeah, so that's where I would start with branding.
So your own brand, you would start with dinosaurs, right?
That's right.
T-Rex.
Yeah, that's it.
Inside joke. She's a dinosaur. She's not only your systems nerd, branding nerd, yogi nerd, but also dinosaur nerd. So
that's right. A dinosaur enthusiast, proud about it.
oh man, that's so funny. You and of course my oldest would get along. So as their dinosaurs are torn apart in the living room right now.
I'm sure, yeah.
So is there missing those key pieces? Let's say they're going to get started with the branding side, starting a business. Like, what would be those first steps to get going and building the brand?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, if you Google branding packet, right, there's a million ways to do this. But for me, it's you sit down, you grab a piece of paper, and you write top three things you want people to know. Or you can go through this exercise that I find really helpful in case you get stuck. It's a fun exercise I like to do with any of my clients. It's if your brand was a person, how would you describe them? And I'll use Starbucks as an easy example because we all know Starbucks, right? So for me, Starbucks is the nerdy guy. He's maybe in college or maybe a grad student. He's got glasses. He likes to sit in the library. Oh no, I'm describing you, Jordan.
No. You go.
He's the leader of the study group, right? Because Starbucks is ahead of the pack in that way, but still warm and inviting, right? When you walk into a Starbucks, it's wood tones, greens, deep, not loud and punchy. So that's how you can kind of picture that human being in your head. And then you're like, oh, how would he speak? Right? So now you're going into tone of voice. He would be calm. He would be a little fun because he's young. You know, things in that zone, you can kind of find the tone of voice as you're imagining this person. So let's say you're a roofer and you want to feel trustworthy, but you also want to be exciting. Let's just say that's your brand, right? How would you describe that person? Probably, you know, the guy that's up first thing in the morning, he works out, he's loud, he's exciting. And so maybe your marketing or your branding really focuses around that tone of voice or that atmosphere. So I would start with either that exercise or the top three exercise, right? Pick three qualities that you want your brand to have. Either one of those will really send you down the pathway of where to start.
I'd say with most people, don't overthink it, right? Like,
Yeah.
like that's the hardest part is everybody gets with analysis by paralysis, they call it. They're just overthinking. Well, I want them to do well, but I want them to, and I want to, not just do it, man. Get
Yeah.
out there and do it. So
That's why I say the three things, right? If you only have three, then you have to stay within the boundaries. And um, I agree with you. Branding, especially if you download those packets, right? They can get crazy because they go into like your mission and your vision, and all those things are really important. But if you don't have that like base feeling about your brand, yeah, I mean, logos, that could take you 3 years.
oh yeah, and there's always the opportunity to rebrand. What's that kind of transition to what we're talking about next is so you built, let's say you built a brand, you've done those small baby steps, you've been in business for a couple of years now, let's say 2-3 years. When do you decide that a rebrand is going to really benefit your company and return? I know some that they when they've rebranded, they've had a big ROI
Yeah.
because of that. So when do you think is a good time to start considering that rebranding?
You know what? It's different for everyone. I would say that if you did a good job at the beginning, your brand should last a minimum of 3 to 5 years. If you didn't, and that's okay, right? Like if you're sitting here thinking and listening to this podcast, being like, I didn't think of any of those things. I just picked the color blue and a picture. That's okay. Branding then would be, now is a great time to start considering it. I think what's good for any company is that if you feel like the clarity of your brand isn't getting across with what you're already offering, that's the time to change. So you take a look at your website, your business card, your truck, what your polos that you wear, and you're thinking the three things I wrote down as my main objectives for the brand aren't visible here. Now is the time to rebrand. If they are, or they're kind of are, and you can't really spend the time rebranding, don't. But you're right, the ROI is incredible. And the reason why is because instead of educating someone on your brand, right, getting them to feel those three key points, I'm going to keep going back to trust. It's an easy one, right? Trust is the thing you want to get across, and it's not happening. Think about all the marketing dollars you have to spend to get them to trust you. If you can rebrand and get them to trust you immediately, right? The website really shows that you have great reviews and really clean lines, and it feels easy to use your website, so they trust that you're a good businessman. Well, then now you've cut your marketing dollars in half, and that's a big win. So that's what I would say is you have to look critically at your branding and say, am I getting my point across in under 30 seconds? Ideally, we want that resonate feeling, right? 7 seconds or less is really what you want people. I know it's crazy, right? But you want them to get that you want them to absorb your brand in 7 seconds or less.
And it's funny, there's an HVAC company here in town, and I know who they are because of their brand. It's I won't say the name of it on here, but they have a little girl in a superhero costume, like doing this number here. So I see it everywhere, and I remember it. I don't remember that little sign that's on the little sign magnet, whatever you throw on the side of your truck, or the small logo stuff. But I remember I know those cars wrapped and that girl. So every time I see it, I know exactly who that company is. And so, next time I need something repaired or done, I'm thinking, I've seen them all over town. That brand itself is stuck in my head. So I know I'm going to, at least if I'm not going to give them a call, I'm looking them up online.
Yeah, and it made an impression on you, right? Because it's probably a little bit different. It's evoking an emotion of power, but from a innocence perspective, right? So all those things, you're like, oh, they get it. I'm on the same page as them, and that's the power of branding, right there. Is that is now ingrained in your mind.
Well, yeah, and then being a dad, right? So I see a kid on there like having fun and having a good time. Like talk about nailing your target audience. What's is mostly going to be, single family homes, two parents, that have kids. Like that's typically probably what they're aiming for, dual income, and
Yeah,
they evoke that right in the brand on the thing. So when I see that kid playing, having fun in costumes, because mine do it all the time. They're PJ
yeah.
Mask and Spider-Man right now. There, I think about them and I go, it just, bam, it just initially attracts me. So I just think it's a great, it's amazing what branding could do in that aspect and how it tells that story.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point is that target audience is probably, and you might even be asking me this question next, but target audience is exactly the next step, right? Once you kind of go through some branding exercises or even just some thought exercises to get those things out, You want to think, how will my audience relate to this brand? And to your point, it immediately evokes the emotion we want. You relate to them, you feel good about them, you want to go meet them. So and that's the hardest thing I think for people, is that they're like, well, I like it. And it's like, okay, but does your audience like it? And that's the difference between good branding and great branding, right?
Yeah, I know. And I feel like some people will try to brand out or make their ideal audience themselves. I'm like, no, we can't do that. Like, right. Unless you happen to be, what it is. But no, I agree. So we got into the steps of branding. We're building a brand. Now there's the act of getting it out there in front of people. So social media obviously is pretty much the number one way to start getting your brand out there. Google obviously as well, and your website, but most people are on social media every day. So what are the best platforms, kind of in your opinion, to get started on social media?
Oh, this is so perfect that we're talking about target audience, right? Because that's what you have to think about first. So TikTok is one of the fastest growing social media platforms. And so most marketing folks, right, will tell you, yeah, exactly. Jordan knows.
I had to do it. It's recorded
you can't
again.
Help yourself. Yeah.
It's going to go on YouTube.
The trends that come out of TikTok are incredible. And like you said, right, they've become a part of our lives. So immediately from the marketing side, you're like, oh, fastest growing, most trendy, but I'm going to argue that on the branding side, is that where your target audience is? If your target audience is young millennials and Gen Z, get your butt to TikTok. But if your target audience is men and women, families, anyone in the 50 to 60 range that have owned a home for maybe a longer period of time and now they need some repairs, you better get over to Facebook or Instagram even, because that's where they're living, right? So you need to find where your target audience is spending the majority of their time. It's not a bad idea to hit all of them, but I would say that if you have limited resources and limited time, which most of us do, right? If you don't have an unlimited amount of help at your company, pick the one that you know your audience is on the most. How do you find that out? Well, do a little research, right? Get on there, see what groups are out there, see who you're relating to. And then ask people, right? If you're in someone's home, you've done a great job and you say, can you follow me on Instagram? And they say, sure. Or if you say, can you follow me on Facebook? And they're like, I don't even have one. Market research done, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you do that with 2 or 3 homes, but it's a really easy way to figure out where your audience is just to ask, right? Can you follow me on one of these platforms? And they say, oh, I'll follow you on Instagram. Easy. I'm a TikTok fan for brands that are going after like a young, and it's so much fun, but you can do a lot in the same zone with Instagram and Facebook. So it's hard for me to say one's better than the other because it's very specific to your business right now. And then to be able to grow on Google as well. So you can't ditch the blogs and the website, right? They have to be a part, because you can do all this work on Instagram, but if they get to your website and they can't call you, it's over.
Yeah. And we talk about, I was watching a meme this morning. Somebody was talking about, buying shared leads, or just, doing lead generation only. Cause you see a lot of those marketing companies out there that, like, hey, we'll just send you leads or whatever. And people, that's eye candy to them. They're like, oh, that's the golden ticket, but it's not, because what happens when those leads come in and they start researching your company, and you've got nothing there. You've got no brand, you've got no social media presence, you have nothing for a website. It's just a phone and you. Like, how are they going to trust you, right? You're at an uphill battle already because you have nothing out there. So to me, this, branding and getting that stuff on social media is a fundamental that I wouldn't say needs to necessarily come first, if you agree with me or not. But it needs to be out there, because if that presence is not built and they come to you, it's gonna be tough on those sales.
I think now more than ever, people are cognizant of who they're doing business with and how they're doing business with them. So social media matters. I think you're 100% correct in that. At some point they want to know who you are, especially if it's related to their home. I think most of the contractors we're talking to here, right, are going into the residential or home space. They're letting you into their most private spaces. And so if they find that on Instagram you're warm and friendly and trustworthy, or even you're fun and exciting, they're going to be like, that's, I'm okay with them coming into my house. They've put some effort in there to seem at some level professional, and they feel like they're safe people. If you've got one image on Instagram every month and it's a stock photo, right? You're like, are these people even real? Do they know what they're doing? And it's a perception that can't be combated with a good review even, which is crazy, right? We used to lean into so many other aspects of our brand, but social media really is important, especially to the generation of millennials that is now buying homes, fixing up homes. So if you're going after, elder millennials, I guess is what they're calling them these days, you definitely want to give your brand a personality, and you want to be visible, that personality be visible on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, depending on who you're going after.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's I do that. If I'm looking for a company, I see, or do they have any social media at all? As long as they have one that's active, I'm okay with that. Like, but if it's not even active, like you can go out there and pay. There's a company, was it 99 Social or something? You pay $100 a month and they'll put something out for you like every day. And they'll do the work for you, right? It's cheap, and that gives you at least something active on there. So you show that you care about some type of presence. But obviously, us, like I'm content, you're branding, getting on video, putting out the right content, educational, showing customers, what you guys do, offering services, how you solve problems, telling stories, all that stuff is super important. That's going to help you grow a really big business. But, like I said, I still look at social media, so who's active, and people do now. So if you're not on board with that, you need to be, if you're looking to grow. So,
yes. Yeah.
So transition here a little bit, branding and marketing. Okay. A lot of people get those confused, mixed up, think it's the exact same thing. So what, in your eyes, what is the difference between branding and marketing?
It's about defining who you are as a company and the story you want to tell, right? Versus marketing, that's you getting out there in front of people, right? So with the branding, it's how you actively shape your persona, your personality as a company, defining who you are, right? What you do and what you don't do. If you're a roofer, do you do solar or not? If you're a plumber, do you do bathrooms and kitchen, or are you specifically something else, right? All of those things help shape the brand. The marketing is what takes the brand and puts it in front of the right people. And if the combination is right, it's gold. So they definitely partner, but you can market all day long. And like you said, they get to the branding aspect of it and they don't feel a connection. It's a much harder sell. So can you do one without the other? Yes. Are you way better off doing both together? 100%. And you'll save time, energy, and money in the long run. But it is confusing because you think marketing is, well, I'm getting in front of people, but do they feel good about that, what they're seeing? It is a good way to think of how branding can define that differently.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's and I guess because people think, I don't know, and I'm in a lot of the contracting groups, and I see a lot of contractors and friends with them. I see what they say, and some of them think, well, marketing doesn't work or branding doesn't work. And it's like, because you didn't do it right. You didn't put the time and effort into doing it. And everybody wants something different. So we know that, right? If you just want to stay, one or two people team, and that's how you want to build out your contracting business, and that's how you want to work, fantastic. You may not need all that other stuff. You can do word of mouth. But if you're looking to grow a business that's going to, give you that freedom, everything you want, branding and marketing is crucial, and you got to get them put together. And that's when you need professionals to help you do it.
Absolutely. I think like you can do step one of branding on your own. And if you're small and you can't, and you're like, oh, like this is so much, there are smaller companies out there to help you. But one of the things that I find so interesting is when people say, I don't need a brand, I'm just going to get leads. And you're like, but you can make this so much easier, right? And so the pathway to ease may just be 2 weeks of thinking about your brand, making it really great, and then going into the marketing. And I promise you those 2 weeks will make your whole next 3 years that much easier. But you're right. It's hard sometimes to think about that because you need the leads now. And we get that too, right? And so if you want branding to go quick and if you want it to be great, yeah, definitely hire somebody. But if you can take the time to do it, you can do it yourself almost. It just,
Takes
it will
longer.
take you a lot longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the hiring the professional is the path to is the shortcut to the goal, right?
It
Um,
is definitely. Yeah. And worth it too.
oh, so and I'm going to ask this next question because and I think it applies for some type of industries, but I think of it in terms of two things. One, like people they call themselves entrepreneurs
Yeah.
that are inside companies, but they are building their own revenue because they're in the sales side.
Yeah.
Big in roofing, but the other part is the algorithm on Facebook, and which a lot of people are on now.
Yeah.
Your personal brand, your personal algorithm reaches so much further than a business one. And I know we could get into an algorithm talk all day long, and the business side does work if you do it right, organically, right? There's always paid, but with that being said, should you develop a personal brand that's kind of almost separate from your company?
That's such a good question. Yes and no, right? You don't have to. I know there's some people that feel like I'd like my personal life to stay with me, and that's okay, right? Like you said, there's a way to do it where the company can be very successful, and you as a owner could be a part of that company's brand, meaning you get on camera, you're the face of that brand. But is there a shortcut to making people see you as like the go-to person, the trustworthy person, the person they feel comfortable connecting with? There is a level, right, where we feel, especially now that we've cracked open social media, right, has cracked open companies and shown us the humans inside them. So you don't look at the storefront anymore. You look at who's running that business, why are they running the business? There's so much more about it. So if you build a personal brand, you can absolutely hit more people. You can absolutely build quicker audiences because they're like, that's a human being I relate to, I empathize with, I share something with. It's a lot harder for a person to feel that with a company, right? It takes a lot more skill. So yes and no, right? You can do it without building a personal brand if you want to stay personal. And I've seen a lot of people have a personal branding page where, they're on Facebook as Brittany Churchill, but then they have like a nice little like Brit Churchill is for family and friends only. And that's where you share the birthday parties. So don't feel like you have to share your whole life as part of a personal brand. I think the influencers who do that have really kind of muddied the water in that sense, right? You can, as a CEO or as an owner, say, these are the 10 things as a pillar of who I am that I'm going to share every week. Like I'm going to share a quote, I'm going to share a video of me. Maybe I do share a photo of my family every once in a while, or my team as my family and how much I love taking them out for beers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily share grandma's 90th birthday. So there's that distinction, and then there's the distinction of, do you even really need that? I think personally, I would build a personal brand. I think it's important to shortcut that pathway to success. But if you're like, I'm really against it, I don't like social media, you can do it with the company. You just, at that point, I would say hire a professional to help you navigate that, just because it is a lot of layers to cut through to show how great you are. That's it's not an easy task, I guess I should say, to cut out that personal brand. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you have to be confident in yourself, and you've got to have ownership in yourself, and I don't know, you've got to be disciplined. You got to be. I'm trying to think of the word. I keep spitting out words to get to the word that I'm looking for, but you have to. I mean, you have to take ownership of yourself. Like you have to be. You have to be okay with your mistakes. You have to know. You have to be disciplined in your day to day activities, not to show that you're perfect, but to show that you are consistent. And you're trying to be not just a better service with whatever company you are, roofing or HVAC or plumbing, but just show that you're trying to make yourself a better man or a better husband or better wife. And I do that with my own personal brand here. And because I think it's important for me to show, as with the preferred contractors, that that I am. I didn't mean to make this about me. Sorry.
No, dude, this is good. Yeah.
It was funny. So I do my best to show people that I'm a human, that, I fall off the wagon and, like working out and stuff. And yes, I have kids and I have a wonderful family. And I'm okay with sharing those things because I want people to see the human side of me and the fact that I do care and that, I'm not just here to, pull the wool over your head and wool over your eyes and say, hey, I'm going to take your money or I'm not going to help you. I really do want to help people. And, the fact that I was at service in education for 15 years, which, we don't make any money in there. And we spent a lot of hours away from our own family to service other people's kids. So, me as a personal brand, as we're pushing preferred contractors out, I think is something that I'm building. So if you want to follow that journey, add me as a friend on Facebook and you get to see that journey of somebody building a personal brand as we go. But yeah, I think so I'm with you. I think personal brand is important. You don't have to put your whole family on there in your whole life, but I think it is important to build that relationship.
It's so easy, right? Because instantly anyone listening to this gets you now, right? Like as a personal brand, we get that you're caring, that you're of service, and that you really want people to succeed, and that's what you're about. It's so much easier to do that as a person than as a brand, right? As a company. So your personal brand can accelerate that. Now your personal brand gets injected into your preferred contractors, and people understand that the goal of that is also the same as the goal of Jordan, right? To be warm and caring and helping people succeed. And it's more about the service than anything. It's so easy, right? Yeah. So, and we say this now, but how long did it take you to get there, right? It took time to kind of cultivate that. And so I don't want people to think that, they can just wake up tomorrow with a personal brand and feel like they failed. No, it takes, like you said, a journey. So Jordan's is a good one to watch right now. Yeah.
And mine's been long from, starting out I was like you, I knew how to build websites because I built them when I learned how to do it when I was teaching. And then, I started with that, moved into the marketing and lead gen side, doing those stupid coaching programs that people do, to generate leads. And then decided that, moved into knowing, I want to build relationships with people. I don't want to just do this. I want to learn, make sure I understand the branding and the marketing and I do things the right way, which obviously has led me into here, right? And into Kyber and into preferred contractors, which, we were building this brand. Like, let's be transparent, right? We want to help more contractors build their business so they can have the family in their life that they want. And so I'm okay with being transparent with that and sharing that here. And this, obviously, talking about branding is a perfect time to do it. So, awesome. Well, look, I think this was we're going to wrap up here. I think we're at the 30-minute mark, pretty close. I try to keep it there. But this was awesome and fantastic. Brittany, thank you so much for taking some time this morning, because I know you're busy running two companies, right? Basically, I'm kidding. So thank you so much again for coming on, giving us all of your knowledge of branding. And of course, we'll probably have you on again and share some stories. Awesome. Well, look, thank you guys again for listening to the Preferred Contractors podcast. If you haven't hopped into our Preferred Contractors group, search for it on Facebook. Preferred Contractors should be the very first group that pops up. Hop in there, answer like 2 questions, and you are in. Until next time, thanks again.